Hey, this is Michael Caputo with First Coast Mortgage.
Tell us a little about yourself and how you got started in the mortgage industry.
So I finished University of Georgia in 1994 and had a friend that was in the business. And so went down for the weekend. They worked on Hilton Head and stayed with them. And it looked like a pretty fun job. And so I stayed on the island for about 3 months and the traffic was just, it was a lot. So came back over to Savannah and have been here ever since.
What do you enjoy most about helping people through the home buying process?
We're very lucky in that we get to see the finished product of our work when the client moves into the house. So a lot of people don't think they can, or are in a difficult situation, and the move represents maybe a fresh start, relocating to the area. Maybe sometimes a lot of people who've had children recently need a bigger house. So you get to see the result and you get to see how happy people are. It's always nice sometimes when people send you thank you cards or invite you to their housewarming party. You can tell home is very important to people. And a lot of times they'll lean on us for advice. Nobody wants to make a mistake. So we get to help people make good decisions, and that's a good job to have.
Interest rates are always a hot topic. What are you seeing in today's market, and what should buyers know right now?
I would say that interest rates are the one thing that people tend to focus on as to whether the payment's going to be expensive or not. But there are a lot of things that impact the monthly payment other than the interest rate, like property taxes, insurance, which is also unfortunately something that's been moving higher, flood insurance, homeowners association fees. So rate is important, but looking at all of the other components of the payment is also important. So we try and look at the big picture. On the good news, interest rates have been starting to move lower. Everybody's been watching oil prices unfortunately climb during the conflict, which seems like it's making progress. And so higher oil prices can lead to inflation, and inflation is enemy number one for mortgage rates. So now that looks like things are improving, oil prices are falling, the expectation for inflation falling is what is starting to send mortgage rates lower.
Many buyers are waiting for rates to drop. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about buying because of interest rates?
It's impossible to time the bottom perfectly for interest rates, right? They don't ring a bell at the bottom. And I've learned over the last 30 years that even myself trying to forecast what a rate's going to do. There's so many things around the world each day that impact rates. There's no way for anybody to know what's going to happen next. You can look at trends and you can kind of see the general direction for rates, but from day to day, we try and focus on, with the current rate, are you comfortable with the payment for the house that you're looking at? Right? So some people might decide, well, gosh, we're going to wait until rates move down 1%. Okay. Or they're going to wait for the price of that home to drop. Well, it might not drop. Somebody else might buy it. So we'll look at the price point that they're shopping in with the current interest rate and say, are you comfortable? So we can either adjust the sales price and look at a lower price, talk about different program options. In this market, you're seeing sometimes the seller spend money to buy down the interest rate for the particular client so that they are comfortable. So depending on how motivated the seller are, there's definitely different ways to get to the payment that you're comfortable with. Interest rate is part of it. I would say if you're waiting for the rate to drop, you could be waiting for a while. The better question would be, with the current rates, what price is affordable? And what are the other things that we could do to make it affordable, as in other debt that they might have that we could focus on getting rid of too?
What are some of the biggest misconceptions first-time home buyers have about getting a mortgage?
You would be surprised how many people this day still think that they need 20% to put down, or they need an 800 credit score, or they can't have any debt. So we always like to say, you're in point A and you want to get to point B. So we can help advise somebody on what they need to do in order to be in a position, or I would say to be in a better position. One of the things we always focus on is what we call payment shock. So if you're renting at $1,000 and your new house payment is going to be at $2,000, where is that money magically going to come from every month? So sometimes it's literally helping people with their budget to see, gosh, if we do this, this, and this, we'd be comfortable. So a lot of first-time home buyers don't want to make a mistake, and or they're afraid of, well, if I buy this, then all these bad things could happen. So part of, I think, the preparation for being ready to buy is not just having the money for closing, but also having, some months' life expenses saved up for emergencies. We talk about different layers of defense and how they would pay for things, when things inevitably will break on a home. So comfort at closing is important, but comfort after closing is also important. So just the monthly payment and the cash, those are usually the things we spend the most time talking about.
How much money does a first-time buyer really need to purchase a home?
Down payment is usually the biggest obstacle for most folks. There are some programs that don't require any down payment. Probably one of the most popular trends we've been seeing lately is gift funds. So grandma, mom and dad, uncle, we're seeing a lot of people want to help their children or their grandchildren get into a home because they realize it's not as easy as it was for them. And we always say, hey, isn't it great to see your money go to work to help them while you can see the good that it does? So it's always Christmas in our world. Gifts are very popular. There are grant programs available. And then again, some programs don't even require a down payment. So it's important. Obviously, the lower the number, the better for most people, because every dollar they don't have to spend at closing is, in theory, money that they have left over as that cushion to keep them comfortable for whatever life brings their way.
What's one thing buyers can do today to put themselves in a stronger position when they're ready to purchase?
The number one thing that someone could do would be to start early, right? We like to say cash and time cures all problems. So with enough cash or enough time, anything can be made right. So if somebody is thinking about moving and they have to be out of their apartment by the end of next month, there's not much time. So in a perfect world, everybody would reach out, I would say 6 to 12 months ahead of time, because then we have time to save money, reduce debt, improve credit scores. And those are the kind of things that you just can't do overnight. Also, one of the things that we focus on in that initial buyer's consultation, if you will, is what's the price range that's right for you? So the longer the buyer knows, hey, I'm going to spend between $250 and $300 in this part of town. Okay, their agent can set them up on a search, and every time a new home comes up that meets their criteria, they can look at it. So then they start to have a really good feel for both the inventory and the pricing. So when their time comes around, they've seen, 30 houses over the last 6 to 12 months. It's really easy to say that one, that's the perfect one. We want it because they've been exposed to the right price range. We like to say, don't fall in love with a $500,000 house if you want a $300,000 payment. So again, tightening up on the price range early allows them to get very familiar with a part of town or different parts of town, so that when the time does come to buy, they feel very comfortable because of everything they've learned over the last 6 to 12 months.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone thinking about buying a home in the next 6 to 12 months, what would it be?
Having just recently gone through the process myself, I didn't realize how many subscriptions, streaming services, you'd be surprised. Take a good look at your credit card statement. You'd be surprised what's going out that you're not aware of, as well as everything that you are aware of. So generally, when someone's getting ready to purchase, saving is the hard part. So that means obviously saying no to certain things. Time and discipline are probably the things that, I always like to say, if the why is big enough, you'll find a way. And so just being honest about what changes can someone make so that there is more left over each month to get rid of certain debt. And usually if there's more than one person involved, that needs to be a mutual agreement. So the one saver, one spender is usually a common theme. So it's nice to sometimes have that initial consultation so that we can get on the same page and make sure that we're both on the saving train or the non-spending train. And that's, sometimes it's more of a big picture conversation. And if we can be pointed in the right direction. That's the most important thing. The speed at which you move is based on resources, job, other liabilities that people have. But if they feel like they're pointed in the right direction, we see a lot better pull through. People, once they like, you know what, that makes sense. I think we can do that. Stack hands and then go. But it's the, chasing 4 or 5 different directions, getting advice from a bunch of different people. And sometimes they get more confused than clear, and they don't make the progress, and then they get frustrated. So I would say 6 to 12 months, if you can have that conversation with your lender, with your agent, and make sure everybody's on the same page, then that's where we see the most success. Hey, this was Michael with First Coast Mortgage. If you find this information helpful, that's why we're here. More importantly, if you have other questions, you can reach out to us at any point, firstcoastmortgage.com. You can find us there, a local Savannah-based lender for the last 33 years.